Nyonchichi morzodar nyume jang, zoner monam jimbor nga gyada, bakar dargan zanto shirmardo. Shtumba tikje janla zhomzorlo, ni jarur tserni jangamsa, jawar tikji shanla yelan. Jime banzo jawla sorada kordi toban bhavara shinjilo, kordi toban bhavara shinjilo, kordi toban bhavara shinjilo.
Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we can hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all sentient beings, please give rise to the unsurpassed and supreme bodhicitta.
Ganzag laksam tagbib shanchib sanwa sayinyang bushka lap tawa dang sham tsari sonam topa na testar to go ganda yangba rikji wa dang wamo ganjik shanchib sanwa sayinyang bu jarki mdan da galla dang kar dang nyangag dang toyang dang metog dang dirpu sojim chopan barjang chopan barjang yangna azjan chopan barjang soxsam Yana zyan makchika mambo la terterm chopan berber karna tsendin jikten dagam yana shimin jikten nams lanji la soba yarton mambo nim tsanda stagda ganzag dev chongr shedo ganzag dev shawangan barnar nave tubre yang manjer na ngus ti togdan babbar mujog so ganda yang ba mawon jikten na Marungwa dang, La Marungwa dang, Dre Marungwa tak Riki bagam Riki umo ganshik shanchu sangwa sayi nyambur kagzig la kibar shepa dang, chopan barwa dang, tornyuk shepa dang, chikam sarwar nam tona, te la te gangdot ndot nipchu shepa dang, yondan dang, panyon mepar kuran depa dang, chabgat shepa dang, shkoner mo pa dang, yana zan lar mo tab chigba dang, tana Shkarwan depi sem shkachik mazam shkerab chikba te tagna karab zambu sangye shtung tsakchik mnyangan len de jan te tag shkarab tabir narman ji karab shtung gabarta tatong yang nyaram narmetar dinghur nyamsam nyongan gero tele tarne yadak nesif karab shtung gabarta dinghur nyamsam nyongan gero tele tarne shurtsung nesif karab shtung gabarta dinghur nyamsam nyongan gero Shlarim mi listin topkyan gurwadan, rig manbadan, wombo matsanwadan, shtagda lengam, gungchigi semjid jambaran yerajan, marang war shlaryang ngansung nesir kiwaran gero. Dina kanda yangba shanchu sanwa sayi nyambur kagzilam chobar shebar namlar kiran depana teritar narman nyamsam nyongna ngus logbar tawar dillar kiene, logbar shobi, Renamber manbana tele jan mu magoso, kanda yangba maung wan jikten namsa, shtibagam vadmid napa kanjik, Vedmida napa kang jig yin rang bu varda. Marsar lhongne chiwagang matap sombayang mani chifshak turmiti ngangne lodang dawadang jagmangbur malamdayang jigdunji jagmangbur malamdayang jigdunji tsewadang kimma nyemjir shiwar namjin tsewadang lamchang ambar diwadang jigdun taka Nyarnun shebatang, Lanjir namdang nyamdan kyambi nangwa la sokbe, yang zirne napate taka libo yang ritjang kambur jirde, marsane sim devar zolak me per mirngang domba no, te taka le lam yang takbar shanji per mafshong wartak girdik chiyanga ngiktan mafshong ne, tse ndoriyang matab natchakjang mani ba yunmu terta na yang kimba pumo te taka dir namjik, Mjepa namjig mjid mani be yano namjig mjid mani be yano tela sangye dang shanchib san khwar namjir kagzik jimdan ne dra chembum durdin dan yad lan chig phlag ba gam yana napa te ti yet gung ngurze dang ku dang ramboche rawa dang kangchim lang ne napa ti mdan da Dra chimbu kakimo udak kakimo jivshave napa kanga cheta ngurzer nam spande galgam lam chupan barwagam sangje dam shanchib san wirkazig jambagam chuten dam gombab jambag marmi rarwa dam gendin la surtun changwa la sogbab shepa yin zilan xsim jivardir mebe napa kanga jang tujan goran gyoro Yana napa ti wig chatne lisim susur charar kirne jig chikam jig nisam jig sam jig jene dangi varta dra chimbum durden da nyaflagna kanzig Khenpo ma tagdar digba chenpo ne zong tem tsame par ngi warki digba nam gyan yongsa tarwan gyaru. Gangzak de dak qashtiyar namsa tsirib chambar gyane rikji wam kongam dordin danyak ngusib jibagam janlam jaram jigbadam. Shangchib san hui ndarkib shibagam rimo jibadam janlam ndarkib shidib jigbadam rimom jirib jigbadam taglaf tenir nambar mambim jawanar gya chenpo tobarin gyawar mum agoso. Dina kanda yang ba gangzak gangzikam dordin danyak lobadam tanar kajik zamlam dordin danyak tornyuk shepar gurtib sheparim tongna kyochib gya tab gyartong tamalaf tenne gangzak teta qipsum semmer dogdam magjik bir shaw. Dertir shina tartadang maung bar yang yondan ji tsog gyartong shia chaggyab samgimi jeba tobarin gyaro. Kanda yang ba maung Jiktenji semchim nar manit yerwa na ladang dredang zig namba na parti shindur kyovir namba dang merhing dombir namba dang dingarvir namba dang wugan jimbir namba dang chak namba sogji zig dang tongna dedag kiyak chikam kiyak chigam kiyak chigdang kiyak chidang kiyak gyadang kiyak tong namsa Shungu rang pama dang pomo mangchang zarda la sopa nyemzir nam ngansung go nesir nong taryo nirkib me ba rang sharikh chigbam ziryo nyen namlar kyabdang kyobam gondang khunyi dang tsorjang sunim ji tsolab tene ngansung tedagle yongsa tarwi cheta tertir nawa yano. Ganda yang ba kyuji zimchir jir toblab tene semjin gangjika sangye dang shangchib sangwish kuzigam dan sem tsikh chigbim dordo Ranga khluqba gamag janda khluqdub chigni tsarq simmam tsarb dun yongsir zuqbana semchin tetq ngansong gnene tarwan gyaro. Teneb zon rmanam ngamba dang nyit to yerba tisa yang semchin tetq tandar nawar mangyaro. Ganda yang ba maung jikten namsi ganzga rigman bar teb janpo dang janmo dang. Rammola soba rangwang me pa mar namla rangrang ka tserwar nga mi le yambar shine shikbar ndo patagna nyan danji rangla sim tsekchik bi shangchib sanwa sayi nyambur kagzik lap tawagam shigm tsarwagam shangchib sanwa tsan vjodne chagchik gangwa na dedak ka le gir nambar mamba zanir tiwar tongchik chibchik warda shtagda ring towa shartagda tiwar ngerjang ngansung neksimji rdungwar mnyongwar mangyaro.
Next, we will talk about the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Right now, in the Ksitigarbha Sutra that we study, we are discussing the chapter, The Praise of the Tathagata. We are talking about how the Tathagata praises Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. This time, as we discuss the Ksitigarbha Sutra, it is also due to rather special circumstances. This year I translated it into Tibetan. In addition, there have been many natural and man-made disasters this year. At such a time, we pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Everyone knows the merits of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, so it is indeed very necessary. That's precisely why we are diligently teaching this profound Dharma. During the entire process of teaching this Dharma, at first we thought there would only be a very small number of people attending. Furthermore, there was no live broadcast available online either. For various reasons, this particular situation has actually turned out to be good and positive overall. But these few people, I feel, are quite earnest and genuinely sincere. They have never, not once, given up on their endeavors. In this particular regard, I think it's quite commendable and truly worthy of praise. Compared to the past, of course, there are some distinct differences, just like in the famous The Drama in the Lotus Garden. The industrious and vibrant bees are joyfully enjoying the sweet golden nectar of the garden's colorful and fragrant flowers. Suddenly, a heavy, sudden and torrential downpour occurred. After the rain cleared, everything was in utter chaos and complete disarray. But remarkably, some resilient and determined bees were still alive. So I think in our world full of changes, impermanence will always appear without any fail. Although the pandemic was as severe as a torrential storm, we are still alive and continue to persevere. So it's not just the recent reign of the pandemic, there may be other kinds of reign as well. No matter what happens in life, some people have always been very dedicated to their practice. Everyone is studying with very great effort, and in this regard, I think this deserves praise and reward. What kind of reward? I will continue to teach about Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Don't ever think that I am going to give you a mere physical gift. Continuing to teach you the profound Dharma is, in fact, my greatest and most cherished reward to you. For you, this should be considered the very best reward, shouldn't it? Because the precious time we have to listen to the Dharma and hear the sacred scriptures, it is truly quite hard to accurately say for each individual person exactly how much we actually have. So life itself is impermanent. Many observable facts, both those inside and those outside, are also inherently impermanent. Even if there isn't some great impermanence, including one's personal faith, one's own body, and all sorts of personal causes and conditions, etc., many of these are all different in various aspects. For example, at this time last year, there was also a group of people who listened very attentively and joyfully. But some people have already truly and sadly left this world forever. Some people, although they haven't left this world, have also left for many different and various reasons. So, by this time next year, whether it's the speaker delivering the lecture or the listeners, no one can be entirely sure or predict what kind of situation or circumstances will arise. Therefore, as dedicated practitioners, specifically as diligent Mahayana practitioners, if we always maintain an awareness of impermanence, just as Bodhisattva Asanga said, if we contemplate impermanence well, at the very beginning we will enter into the true Dharma. In the middle, it will truly spur us on in our practice, and in the end, it will be hard for us to regress. Because in our daily practice, we will always remain very diligent and attentive. So I think today we should also not treat listening to the profound teachings of the Dharma as just another ordinary corporate training session, or like a regular mundane math, physics or chemistry class at school, where the primary goal is often rote memorization and problem solving. In this regard, perhaps as practitioners, as Buddhists, there is still quite a significant difference. We often say that it is hard to obtain a human body and difficult to hear the Dharma, especially that it is rare to encounter a good teacher and so on. Currently, we have these such favorable conditions, however, not everyone possesses all of them. Each person has their own causes and conditions to hear the Dharma. Even if it is just for one class or a few classes, this does not happen without reason or cause. There must be especially rare and auspicious conditions for one to encounter the Mahayana Dharma. Therefore, when we listen to the profound teachings of the Dharma, it is truly best to do so with a heart full of genuine joy, deep respect, and unwavering diligence. We should listen in this way, otherwise we might feel that listening to the Dharma is neither good nor bad, whether we listen or not. If we don't listen, we miss out on the teachings, and it seems like everyone else receives them, but we do not, which makes us feel uncomfortable inside. If we do listen, then that hour feels so unbearable. It seems better to just get some good sleep or go online, or go to a cafe with friends in the afternoon to have some tea and relax, or watch the moon in the evening, enjoy the moonlight on a quiet night, and so on. If we think like this, perhaps we have obstacles to hearing the Dharma. So actually, it really isn't an easy task for us. I think if each and every one of you listens in this particular way, then I am truly grateful. If none of you were here, I wouldn't be able to give this talk either. If I were just looking at a camera lens, I wouldn't even know if anyone would listen to the audio or video later. So even if there is just one person here, I am truly especially grateful. Because of your positive connection, I also have the wonderful opportunity to teach. Such opportunities arise from causes and conditions, not simply from using a certain method. Today, we will continue our in-depth discussion and exploration of the profound Ksitigarbha Sutra. Yesterday, we talked earlier about If there are some women who are troubled by their unattractive physical appearance or weak, frail, and sickly bodies in this present life, these distressing issues that cause great suffering can be completely resolved through sincerely praying to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva with a devout heart. Today, the Buddha graciously continues to tell universal vast. If there are good men and good women who, standing in front of the sacred image of the Bodhisattva, that is to say, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, perform various kinds of beautiful music, skillfully play a wide array of musical instruments, and melodiously sing a diverse selection of songs, as well as eloquently recite profound poems to offer sincere praise, and also make meaningful offerings with fragrant flowers and aromatic incense, or even encourage one person or many people to do the same. If you do this, making offerings yourself reverently in front of the Buddha or the Bodhisattva, and encouraging others to offer such praises, just like when we performed the Samantabhadra cloud offering in the past, our master, when we first started reciting the Samantabhadra cloud offering, the offering mantra at the beginning was not included, but later His Holiness said that when we recite the 7-branch offering, especially when reciting the offering mantra in our daily practice, we should play some music. And when the music is played, sometimes the people in the control room would play some pop music while we were reciting the King of Aspiration prayers with great diligence and deep devotion and sincere focus. They would often play some particularly interesting, even some rock music sometimes. But maybe they played it by mistake, or maybe it was some younger people thinking that many people like it, and that anything people truly like can be offered to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. For some reason, this happened several times. Sometimes it was even the sound of the old Red Revolution. They would start playing it as well. But no matter what, as long as someone likes it, any kind of, for example, songs of praise, incense, flowers. We also know that during the annual Ksitigarbha Dharma assembly, the entire assembly hall, both inside and out, is beautifully decorated with all kinds of exquisite flowers and various meaningful poems, fragrant incense, brilliant lamps. All these wonderful offerings are presented. In fact, these actions are especially and profoundly in line with the deep and significant meaning of the revered Ksitigarbha Sutra, which offers immense spiritual guidance. That day, a Dharma friend was also thinking, he used to not understand why His Holiness, among the 8 great Bodhisattvas, would hold a Ksitigarbha Dharma assembly. When we first started out, it seemed that in many other recitations, there weren't any beautiful decorations of flowers and fragrant incense and all sorts of things in the assembly hall either. When playing music or reciting the 7-limb offering, many monasteries didn't do it either. They also didn't play all kinds of music at the same time, but now they still play it, right? But when they play it, what kind of music do they play? The kind from before, I don't even know which specific kind from before. There were really very many different kinds indeed in the past. There were all sorts of different music. Actually, looking at it now, the profound intentions of the great Bodhisattvas and the masters, maybe we only came to understand them later. When I first arrived at the beginning of our recitations, the clouds of offering mantras was not in the ritual. We started with the verses of the 8 noble auspicious ones. Later, His Holiness said that in the Kadampa Master's dialogues on the path, there is this mantra. The merit of this mantra is immense, so it was added later. At first, when we recited the 7-branch offering from the King of Aspiration prayers, there was no music played at the beginning. At that time, there was also no 5 offerings and such. Later, His Holiness also said that every day when we recite the King of Aspiration prayers, we should make some 5 offerings at the beginning. In this particular way, the merit is especially and profoundly great. We don't really have this here, do we, in this specific context? When you engage in your daily recitation, you might find it quite enjoyable and beneficial to incorporate some music that you like to listen to. There are so many different kinds of music, and I am unsure about the specific type of music that you prefer. But playing Amitabha chants is not suitable. Even if you encourage just one single individual to make such profound offerings and heartfelt praises, then these dedicated people in this very present life will experience truly remarkable outcomes. The positive and lasting result is not only for the next life, but it manifests significantly in this current existence or in all their future lives to come. They will often receive the support of hundreds and thousands of spirits and deities. They will be protected day and night, guarded day and night. They will not be subjected to all kinds of devastating disasters and misfortunes caused by earth, water, fire, and wind. Even within a very short period of time, they won't even hear about such things with their own ears, let alone personally experience sudden, unexpected, or violent deaths themselves, or die in disasters of earth, water, fire, wind, or in wars. None of these things will happen. So, in this passage, one thing is that we, just like during our cloud offering ceremonies or even in our daily lives, when we recite the King of Aspiration prayers ourselves, making these offerings is very important, because not everyone has the opportunity to make aspirations with the Sangha every day. As for these aspirations, the recitations we do before and after class, this can be used as our daily recitation for our practice. Recently, the finance department has diligently made a Tibetan version of it. I am not entirely sure if it has been officially distributed yet, but there are indeed some Tibetan versions available right now. Those who understand Tibetan can read them. These are some recitation texts for before and after class. Of course, even if you don't fully understand, you can still distribute them if there are enough copies available. They can indeed serve as valuable supports for the three jewels. As for these recitations, you can recite them yourself in the future if your circumstances in various aspects mean that you don't even have a Dharma friend with you, let alone a group of monks to recite together, and you don't even have internet living in a particularly remote place. Then, if you only have a daily recitation in your practice, you can play music yourself from your own device and recite on your own. You can start by playing a piece of music you like to listen to the most. Then every day, make offerings to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and make offerings to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This is fine. Just now, I deliberately used a voice that doesn't sound very pleasant. Otherwise, my real voice shouldn't sound like this. It's actually better sounding than this. So I intentionally put on this rather unpleasant voice, you see. I really did. So for people like this just now, reciting and making offerings, these people, both in this life and in future lives, will receive the protection of spirits and deities. Actually, here, spirits and deities can be understood as Dharma protectors. Some of them, for example, when we talk about Dharma protectors, some are like the four heavenly kings, who were all ancient celestial beings in the past of times. And in terms of appearance and other aspects, they are quite peaceful, like the powerful four heavenly kings, such as Indra and Brahma. They once made vows before the Buddha to protect the Dharma. There are such beings, and then there are others as well. For example, especially in Vajrayana Buddhism, some of the Dharma protectors in Tibetan Buddhism have a wide variety of appearances, all kinds of forms. Some are particularly fierce or even ugly in appearance, like the 12 Tenma sisters of the past, the protector deity Chiu Marpo, and the protectors we commonly invoke, such as Rahula, Dorje Lekpa, and Ekadzati. These Dharma protectors, and there are many, many more. There are especially many protectors in Vajrayana Buddhism. Most of these entities were originally subdued by the revered Guru Padmasambhava and other truly great and accomplished masters during the process of spreading the true Dharma. At that time, they manifested their own forms. Some of them belonged to the realm of hungry ghosts. Some were from the animal realm. Some were yakshas, asuras, and some were rakshasas, as well as kinnaras and other such beings. At that particular time, these various beings, because in the very beginning, just like the fascinating story of Peha that I recounted the other day, they created obstacles and caused harm in front of him in various ways. Later, they promised with very sincere hearts that they would no longer harm the Dharma. After making this promise, as for their appearance at that time, they still retained their original forms. That's why when we make offerings to Dharma protectors, it is different from the exoteric tradition. Sometimes, for example, we offer alcohol, meat, and things, because for them, it's a bit difficult for them to suddenly become vegetarian. So at that time, Guru Padmasambhava did not require it either. So sometimes, even though we ourselves are vegetarians, when it comes to Dharma protectors, at that time it was also allowed for them to offer some alcohol during sock offerings. Some people simply don't understand this. We also know that when making offerings to Dharma protectors, why do we offer alcohol and such things? Actually, these beings are rather rough and fierce by nature. Among humans, those who love to drink and eat meat, these people may not necessarily be especially gentle or docile. So as for Dharma protectors, in the past they would harm sentient beings and eat meat every day. So these Dharma protectors, whether they are of the hungry ghost type or the celestial deity type, these powerful Dharma protectors will vigilantly protect you day and night. Therefore, diligently reciting prayers to these Dharma protectors is also very important and highly beneficial. Of course, when it comes to reciting for the Dharma protectors, you could also put it this way. If your own mind is very pure and truly unblemished, then you will have the protection of the Dharma protectors. With the protection of the Dharma protectors, a person's strength really becomes quite different. In Mipham Rinpoche's profound and insightful work, The Treatise on the Modes of Being, it is also explicitly stated, if indeed someone is truly protected by a powerful deity, then even when he is by himself, he is remarkably able to match the formidable strength of thousands or even tens of thousands of other people. If some people have the protection of Dharma protectors in their lives at all times, even though they are alone in this world without any companions around, their strength should be able to rival the strength of thousands or tens of thousands of people, completely matching and balancing it with great power and mighty force. Sometimes, why is it that among us humans, some people's words carry a great deal of weight and influence? It seems as though one single person can accomplish the work and achievements of many, many other people. Actually, this remarkable phenomenon is often due to the benevolent and powerful assistance of Dharma protectors who provide their support and guidance. Having the support of Dharma protectors is extremely important right now for all us. Indeed, if the Dharma protectors do not truly help, especially in this degenerate age of the 5 degenerations of the world, there are non-human harms and all kinds of adverse conditions, far, far too many. Therefore, in our daily lives, we should diligently perform some practice of Dharma protectors and recite prayers to them, seeking their blessings and protection. In fact, here at the sacred Vajra demon subduing Sangha, from its very inception and throughout its continuous existence until this present moment, for a period spanning over 30 years, basically as long as there are teachings, we have never stopped making offerings to the Dharma protectors. Here we also make offerings to the Dharma protectors every day. But when it comes to the Dharma protectors, there are some things we might need to pay attention to. The day before yesterday, I heard some announcements here saying that this person can't participate, that person can't participate. For example, people who have had abortions can't participate. Many Dharma teachers are especially using all kinds of evidence to explain this. But I have never heard of this before. I don't know who exactly conveyed this information to you. Although in the past this might have been a kind of folk tradition, and there are some specific statements from individual masters, such as widows, blacksmiths. There are a few notable cases where, in the sacred Dharma protector halls, there are indeed some specific prohibitions. However, this might be something that originated from the predecessors and also a view that is currently held by a relatively small number of rather conservative individuals. It was just a saying from that time, I suppose. As for how things are now, actually, when our revered His Holiness was still alive in this physical world here, even regarding the recitation of protector prayers, he never said that because we recited protector prayers, someone was not allowed to recite them. I don't think that's the right way to put it. Because when reciting protector prayers, actually, the Dharma protectors should be compassionate toward all sentient beings. Of course, there are some very clear prohibitions, but I'm not deliberately granting explicit permission here either. But generally speaking, for example, things like abortion are actually considered a kind of serious sin. For instance, killing innocent people, these are essentially the same. But as for this particular matter, I personally haven't heard any information about it myself. If there truly is such a specific thing, you are welcome to directly refute me on the spot right here and now. because after so many years at Larungar, I still don't know about it. I truly think that I haven't actually heard of this particular thing before. I'm not exactly sure who told you this. Every year when Larungar makes offerings to the Dharma protectors, we've never said anything like that, have we? Anyway, after a little while, probably on the 14th or the 15th day, we at Larung also make significant offerings to the revered Dharma protectors. First, we recite prayers in the assembly hall, and on the second day, we go to the entire Wutai mountain to make offerings. But during the offering process, everyone should really do it in a very relatively quiet manner, right? That's a bit better. I think in other places, in various locations, if there isn't a particularly sacred mountain, or a place that's especially convenient for making offerings to Dharma protectors, then just do some simple small offerings. Wherever I go, I always make sure to do this. I always carry the cup I always use for making offerings to the Dharma protectors. If other offerings are very inconvenient, whatever tea I drink every day, I will offer that tea to the Dharma protectors in this way. This is also a bit more convenient for me to do personally. Besides this, especially in cities outside, these things aren't very convenient to find. So when you make offerings to the Dharma protectors in the future, you can also do it this way. For example, in some of our related Dharma centers, on the 26th day of the Tibetan calendar, there are some stories between the revered first Dudjom Rinpoche and Goddess of the Trees of Dzishen Plain, located just west to Larunga. This story has been told before. So on that auspicious day, in various different Dharma centers, some beautiful and symbolic offerings are also reverently made. It's also very good to make special offerings to the Dharma protectors, especially for those who have stayed at Larunga before. Generally speaking, if you have stayed there before, you can make offerings wherever you go. Those truly great masters who entered Tibet in the past, no matter which specific monastery they were residing in, when they eventually returned, they would still diligently make offerings to their very own Dharma protectors. Actually, doing this is also very good. It is truly a kind of deep commitment and also a kind of stability. And people nowadays are especially quite fickle. Today you meet one person, tomorrow you meet another. Today you do this thing, tomorrow you do something else. Basically, by the time you get to the end, all the cherished friends and significant things from the past are essentially completely forgotten. Actually, in this particular way, this represents a significant fault of our minds, which are often unsettled and inherently unstable. I just wanted to briefly talk about making offerings to Dharma protectors. Also, here it is said that if you sincerely pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, then the Dharma protectors will always protect you. Unpleasant things or matters of death, those truly difficult and sorrowful experiences, you won't even hear about them temporarily, let alone have the unfortunate experience of encountering them directly. This is probably a very similar kind of profound teaching designed to protect and guide. In the past, the revered Master Hongyi, during the period when he was still living as a layperson before his monastic life, it is said that he often liked to make offerings to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Later, after he became a revered monk, he still very often, no matter where he traveled or journeyed, continued to impart his wisdom and teachings. He continued to make offerings to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Once after he became a monk, it was still the same. He always carried a venerable statue of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva with him to make offerings. Later he went to a temple, I think it was indeed in Hangzhou. It is said that there were very few people in this temple. There was an old monk, 2 other monastics and a lay practitioner. Including Master Hongyi, there were only 5 individuals present. He subsequently settled down there for the entire summer. After settling in, Master Hongyi's routine was as follows. Every single night he would always pray to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, then make offerings to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva before going to sleep. One day he faithfully followed his usual established routine, prayed in this very way, and then subsequently went to sleep. When he finally drifted off to sleep, he slept especially soundly and deeply, but in the quiet middle of the night, precisely around midnight, he was suddenly and abruptly jolted awake. It seemed as though he could clearly hear the faint sound of footsteps coming from the room upstairs. He also heard the voices of the elder monks. One of the elder monks had been seriously ill and bedridden. He heard that voice as well. He wondered what exactly was happening. Should he go and take a look? But then, perhaps because he was feeling incredibly tired and utterly exhausted, he fell back asleep. The very next morning, when he got up and ventured outside in great shock, he saw that the entire temple was in a state of complete and utter disarray. He immediately asked, "What on earth could have possibly happened here last night?" They all said, "You are incredibly, incredibly lucky." Last night, deep in the middle of the dark and silent night, a menacing group of armed bandits stealthily climbed over the high wall, equipped with dangerous guns, sharp knives, and various other formidable weapons. They thoroughly looted all the precious and valuable artifacts within the ancient monastery. They even forcefully compelled the elderly and venerable monk to hand over all the monastery's sacred and cherished possessions. The elder monk really had no choice. He had already been seriously ill, but maybe his illness wasn't actually that severe. He immediately got up and quickly ran out to the road. He told them there were about $200 silver. At that time, $200 silver, a significant sum. I don't know how much $200 silver was worth in Master Hongyi's time. Was it expensive or not? But those people were still not completely satisfied. They opened every single door of all the buildings in the monastery, one by one. Even the monks' traditional clothing, their robes and attire, anything that could be used, was all taken away during the night. Everything was carried off in the darkness. Only Master Hongyi's room was left completely intact. They tried to pry open the door with great force, but it just wouldn't budge. Then they desperately tried to open the window, hitting it repeatedly, but the window simply would not open either. So they prepared themselves to smash the window accordingly. But they couldn't break it open either. They spent a long time during the night trying to get that room open, but could not succeed. Master Hongyi was sleeping so soundly too, without waking up. Later, as dawn was about to break, when it was almost light, and because after all they were common thieves and they were deeply afraid of being discovered by others, which would lead to severe consequences, so they quickly left. Master Hongyi later recounted this significant incident to many individuals. The blessings of Ksitigarbha are truly incredible. If someone else had truly told this particular story, perhaps people wouldn't necessarily believe it, but this was something he personally experienced himself, not just a mere legend or a simple tale. At the end of his lectures on the Ksitigarbha Sutra, there are 28 kinds of merits, one of which is being carefully protected from dangerous thieves and cunning robbers. He specifically mentioned this particular story in that precise context, so I think here we should consider this point. Maybe there are some evil deeds that we simply can't hear about at all. Perhaps when they were smashing the door at that time, it's possible that the Dharma protectors were actively blocking it, or perhaps he simply didn't hear it at all, completely missing the sound. Even the Venerable Master Hongyi didn't hear the distinct sound of the door being forcefully smashed from outside. That is truly a rare and perplexing occurrence, isn't it? That's the end of this part. Next, the Buddha clearly tells universal Vows that in future lifetimes, if there are some evil people or evil spirits or terrifying evil ghosts, here there are 3 distinct types of sentient beings. Some are particularly wicked people, and there are also especially malevolent fierce spirits, as well as some particularly evil and malevolent ghosts and deities. When they see some truly good men and good women in the world, and see them taking refuge, showing respect and making offerings, as well as praising and paying homage to the sacred image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva among the good men and good women in our world. Some individuals make their sacred offerings, some humbly prostrate themselves with deep reverence, and some offer their sincere and heartfelt praise. Those evil spirits and malicious ghosts become especially unhappy, filled with intense displeasure. Then, towards this devout person, they start to relentlessly ridicule and maliciously slander them with harsh and damaging words. The evil spirits and malicious ghosts might secretly influence this person's mind very easily, causing them to slander others. Perhaps that's precisely how it truly happens most often. As for good men and good women, they may not necessarily notice that the evil spirits and malicious ghosts are displeased. But when it comes to people, perhaps some people, when they see others doing good deeds, immediately become intensely jealous. Then they start to slander them. What exactly do they slander? They claim that the profound merits of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva are utterly meaningless, that there is no benefit, and so on. Or they might aggressively bare their teeth in a mocking, derisive laughter, ridiculing them with scorn, or they could display a contemptuous and disdainful expression, laughing as they do so, clearly showing their utter disrespect. In the past, many people were dissatisfied with the actions of certain individuals, saying things like, "This person is too foolish, too shameful, too stupid," and so on. They often laugh in this rather cruel way, or they slander others behind their backs, denying any good qualities they possess. or they actively persuade someone else to join in the malicious slander, spreading negativity, encouraging another person to engage in slander and to deny any truth as well. Or they persuade someone else to participate in this act of slander alongside them, whether it involves a single individual or a multitude of people, all contributing to the spread of falsehoods and misinformation. Even if someone gives rise to a mind of ridicule and slander for just an instant, or even if for just a moment they have a mind of ridicule and slander, that's enough. Or if in a single thought or a single instant a mind of ridicule and slander truly arises, everyone knows this, right? When it comes to interpersonal relationships, you see, because of the words of evil people or evil spirits, when they see certain people, they feel unhappy, and then they start to slander them. Not only do they slander themselves, but they also organize others to join in. Whether it's one person, 2 people, 10 people, or 8 people, they might even use the internet or written words, using all kinds of methods to start ridiculing and slandering. So, what exactly kind of individuals are these people? Such people, even after 1,000 Buddhas of the fortunate eon have entered nirvana, what kind of karmic retribution do they truly receive for their slander? They are still, even now, suffering immensely in the Avicii hell. They endure immense suffering for their grievous sins. It's truly pitiful. You see, if someone slanders Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva even for a single instant in their mind, this is entirely possible, you know. Fortunately, we haven't encountered evil teachers. If you do come across an evil teacher, and your teacher is especially opposed to the Ksitigarbha teachings, it's very likely that from a young age you would develop an aversion to the Ksitigarbha Dharma. If that's the case, then not only that particular person, but also those he gathers around him will inevitably all fall into complete ruin. All the 1,000 Buddhas of this Bhadrakalpa have already entered nirvana, yet these beings are still suffering in the Avicii hell. They continue to truly experience boundless, unending, severe, and constant retribution. Even after the time of all the 1,000 Buddhas of the Bhadrakalpa has passed, they will then experience the severe and inescapable retribution of being hungry ghosts, also for 1,000 incredibly long kalpas. After that, they will suffer as wretched and tormented animals. Only after another 1,000 kalpas will they be able to obtain a human body. When they finally gain a human body, they are not particularly blessed or fortunate individuals. They may be extremely poor and lowly, perhaps even utterly destitute, with incomplete faculties, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, or they may be mute, and so on. Some individuals are completely bound by negative karma, their minds utterly shackled and truly constrained. Some people, however, though they possess all 6 faculties fully intact and functioning, their minds are either extremely anxious, or their minds are already bound by non-human entities, or this person's mind is congenitally afflicted with certain illnesses that are quite very serious from the time of birth. The powerful karmic force tightly binds them all along their journey, and before too long they will inevitably fall into the lower realms of existence again. That's why in our world there is often a profound saying, those who are pitiful often have something detestable about them. What we see in today's society, whether it's people with unattractive appearances, or those who are poor and lowly, or those with incomplete faculties, or those who suffer greatly in their hearts. Some people have everything to eat and drink, all these things they are fully provided for in terms of wealth, and have everything, but their hearts are never happy, and they are extremely, extremely miserable. Why do so many people choose to end their own lives by suicide nowadays? Actually, logically speaking, in this world, suicide doesn't necessarily solve the problem. After you die, you will still have to experience suicide, once again 500 more times in total. It's really because there's no other way out. The hope for survival has become extremely slim, especially when it's truly impossible to survive at times like this. One doesn't want to, but in the end, that's the choice that's made. So what are these? The main reasons are, perhaps in a previous life, one slandered Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, for example, or slandered those who worship Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. They may have spent a very long time in hell, or a very long time among hungry ghosts, or a very long time among animals. When they return to the human world, they repeatedly are reborn in lowly and humble places as lowly, humble people without status. Truly, the karmic retribution for sentient beings can sometimes be extremely terrifying. There is a Buddhist scripture known as the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of Total Retention, which states the following: "You can clearly see that those who slander the Dharma accumulate extremely grave and serious negative karma, causing them to fall into the 3 lower realms, making it very difficult to escape. Such people, as a result of their actions, fall into the 3 lower realms, and it is indeed very difficult for them to escape or to truly achieve complete liberation." This is also mentioned in the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of Total Retention. Some great masters of the past, when quoting this important work, particular sutra in their commentaries, refer to it as the Buddha speaks of the effects of action sutra. But I checked, and perhaps it is in that sutra, but I did not find it there. It should be in the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of Total Retention. Of course, the Buddha speaks of the effects of action sutra, mainly discusses in very great detail the karmic results the Buddha experienced in so many different past lifetimes, while on the path to Buddhahood in the past, including the slander the Buddha suffered at that time, as well as headaches, stepping on thorns, and so on. These kinds of causes and conditions are discussed in great detail. As mentioned earlier in our teaching, the Buddha speaks of the effects of action sutra covers these topics. Perhaps this scriptural evidence is also incorporated there as well. In any case, if someone slanders the Dharma in any way, they unintentionally accumulate extremely heavy negative karma. We truly have no reason to slander others in this world, not even the teachings of non-Buddhist traditions. We should always consistently maintain a pure mind towards them. If we can keep a pure mind, then everything is perfectly fine, especially in particular slandering one's teacher or the true Dharma. These are indeed extremely serious objects of negativity. For example, the guru of Shabbawa in the past was a pig butcher who killed very many animals for a living at the time. In the ancient stories of Tilopa and Naropa, the guru was a fish roaster in his village back then, and the great accomplished master Yeshe Tsopa, his guru, was an especially filthy layperson with no status or respect, and so on. There were many such greatly accomplished masters in India whose conduct was of all kinds and types. But if one has a pure mind, relying on them also leads to accomplishment. In Buddhism, we also have definitive and non-definitive teachings, as you know, and there are various kinds of them. As long as we truly accept them with respect and a pure mind, every Dharma method for you, for this sentient being, is beneficial and precious to those who receive it. In our hospitals, there are different medicines available for many conditions. If you take a certain medicine according to your specific illness at that time in the right way, then these illnesses can also be cured in a relatively short period of time completely through this practice. So this is very important for us to understand well. Therefore, universal vast, if one ever slanders others' offerings, they will receive such retribution, let alone if they develop wrong views and truly destroy with malicious actions, for example, smashing statues of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva or killing those who make offerings to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva with very pure, sincere hearts. Sometimes, due to certain wrong views, from a historical perspective, there have also been some particularly terrifying cases, including the ancient Buddha statues in Afghanistan, which were blown up by terrorists at the time. After they were blown up, it seems that retribution came in this very life. They themselves did not fare well. In fact, their lives were not good either. Ever since that time, their days have not gone well. Some experienced retribution in this very life, while for others, the karmic consequences follow into future lives. This also happens. So if you really go and burn statues or thangkas of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva with great disrespect intentionally, blow up bronze, gold, or stone statues of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in any way, or burn the Ksitigarbha Sutra, these actions are truly terrifying. It's not just about Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, but also Avalokiteshvara, Manjushri, Shakyamuni Buddha, and Guru Padmasambhava. These are all extremely serious objects of reverence. If in the past we held wrong views or lacked proper faith and intentionally caused some destruction ourselves, if perhaps due to incorrect views at the time we caused some damage, then it is best, before you die, to consider what kind of sacred image you destroyed at that time, and you should recreate the same kind of sacred image. For example, if it was a 20-meter tall sacred statue, if you destroyed it, then you should try to see if you can build one like it as soon as possible. In my hometown as well, during the Cultural Revolution in that period, there were some cases like this happening that I witnessed. At that time, people seemed to change with the times, and some destroyed Buddha statues and stupas very violently. There were all kinds of situations. So if there were Buddha statues or stupas at that time, people would usually carefully hide them under pine trees or beneath rocks. When I was young and herding cattle, whenever I saw a slightly larger pine tree in the forest, I would dig desperately and carefully underneath it. Sometimes I actually found some scriptures, but some of the scriptures had already been partially damaged and made unreadable by rainwater. Even now, whenever I see this, due to habits I developed as a child, sometimes when I'm on the mountain, if I see a big ancient tree, I wonder, could there be something hidden underneath it that people have not noticed before? I've always had this kind of discriminating thought in my heart. So in different periods of history, we should also maintain right understanding and mindfulness ourselves, because what the future world will become is truly very hard to predict. So we must rely on right understanding and mindfulness to guard our body, speech, and mind. Next it says, furthermore, universal vows, if in the future there are some men or women such as these who are bedridden with a long illness and unable to get well or die despite their wishes. Some patients truly are like this. I've talked about this before. I've personally seen some who have been like this for 9 or 10 years. Some are especially pitiful, reduced to skin and bones. Yet this particular karmic condition just can't be easily cut off, no matter what. These patients may, in their dreams, be constantly tormented by evil spirits, as well as by their past enemies and creditors, parents, relatives, or friends who have passed away before. All of these situations can cause them harm, whether it is physical or emotional. Sometimes they may also find themselves on dangerous paths. For instance, they might come across especially steep cliffs that are difficult to navigate, or they could have to pass through very narrow roads that are risky and require extra caution, or perhaps about to fall into a river, such as all sorts of terrifying and dangerous paths. Or there may be various terrifying nightmare ghosts, what we now call sleep paralysis, or being pressed by a ghost in bed, sometimes when sleeping at night. This kind of phenomenon can occur. Or they may be together with some evil spirits, some malevolent evil spirits, together with these deceased people and evil spirits, dwelling together, being with them. This is something we often, especially when approaching serious illness, it's possible to go traveling with people who have died before, who have already died before, and feel especially really happy. This often happens in dreams, being together with people who have passed away, people who have already passed away before. Moreover, such patients, such terminally ill patients, day and night, or rather year after year, month after month, day after day, for a very long period of time, are constantly tossing and turning, suffering without end, unable to find relief or comfort. As for this kind of wasting disease, the person becomes especially weak and fragile, constantly tormented and in pain. Because year after year, month after month, they are tormented like this for a very long time. They keep crying out in pain in their sleep at night, night after night, night after endless night, crying out non-stop continuously, in great agony, in terrible great agony, writhing and trembling with unbearable suffering. And then there are those who are miserable and joyless, especially cruelly treated, extremely pitiful and tragic. So what is this? This is something we really see in some patients, including those around us. Some people can't die, but can't really live either. Maybe when we are dying someday, we might end up like this too. So everyone should be mentally prepared that when the time comes, what we all hope for is to lie down at night in the posture of the Buddha's nirvana and fall asleep like that. And then when people come in the next morning, they find, this person has passed away. Oh, Om Mani Padme Hum. That way, it would be easy for ourselves, and others wouldn't have to feel anxious or tense about it either. That would be ideal. But not everyone gets to have it that way. Some people experience extreme pain and suffering, real torment. So what is the reason for this?
Mainly, it's because their karma hasn't been judged or determined yet. Generally speaking, their karmic results haven't been decided if their karma were to be judged. For example, let's say if the Lord of the Bardo were to make a judgment about them, but the verdict hasn't come out yet, then they would be tormented for a long time, so to speak. Or, in some cases, the severity of their karma hasn't been determined yet, hasn't been fully determined yet by the karmic forces. Strictly speaking, there are two explanations for this, two different possible explanations for this phenomenon. One is the common folk explanation, and the other comes from certain scriptures. Every sentient being experiences the pain of death, and it's all arranged one by the wardens of Yama's hell. There's another explanation, though. It's that the karma of this being hasn't been finalized yet. Their karma is extremely complex. They're approaching death. But when it comes to dying, perhaps even while we're still alive, for some people, for some beings, they're not allowed to die yet. They're truly made to endure suffering over many long years. They're usually kept securely locked up in prison, or sometimes tied up tightly with ropes. It's just like the story of King Bimbisara that was told before. So that's a possibility, a real possibility. For this reason, it's very hard for us to let go of our lifespan. And then we can't recover from illness either. We can't really live, but we also can't get well from our sickness. When this happens, most ordinary men and women simply can't see the truth of the matter. In this world, ordinary men and women who don't understand cause and effect, in their eyes they have no idea at all that this is a special and extremely complex set of causes and conditions. Even with our current medical science, they also consider it a difficult and complicated disease. They think it's a particularly strange illness. No matter if we take x-rays or do CT scans, no matter what we do, we can't find anything. All the necessary medicines have been used, all the treatments have been done, but still the person can't really live, nor can they die. At this time, we ourselves might also experience something like this when we die. At such a moment, you should think to yourself, maybe I have a special kind of karma. Perhaps in my previous life I caused some sentient beings to be unable to live or die. In the present day, some butchers and some people are extremely very cruel indeed. They keep some sentient beings from dying or living, neither dead nor alive. There are such facts, such kinds of karmic retribution. But men and women in the world don't understand this. But if this is truly the case, and if such a very serious or critical patient does actually appear, you can be in front of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra aloud once, recite the sacred Ksitigarbha Sutra aloud once, reverently and sincerely. That might solve it, if he is indeed. Of course, our karma, some are due to karma, and sometimes to the four elements. The forces of four elements, as well as the various accidental causes and conditions, there are differences in chanting sutras. If it's the karma from previous or past lives, even if you recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra once, it may not necessarily cure everything completely or absolutely. We need to be mentally prepared for this now, prepared for this possibility. Or when there is such a seriously ill patient as just now, take out all the things the patient cherishes, including their clothes, personal belongings, valuable treasures, as well as estates and houses. He brings them all out, because it seems like this person doesn't have much hope left. It's best to focus on what he is especially attached to. Whether it's an iPad or a kasaya, simply confiscate those particular things he likes the most. Then say, you're not going to make it much longer now. Bring out all the things you're most attached to. We need to recite sutras. We need to accumulate merit. If he doesn't have any faith, he might get furious. He might even die from anger. Take out all of these, including each and every one of his houses and estates. Bring them all out. And then, after you have done so, loudly proclaim, I, so-and-so, today, for the sake of this patient, I am taking all the things he cherishes most and turning them into money. Then, using it to sincerely make offerings to the Buddha, to carefully print sacred sutras, and to skillfully create Buddha statues, as well as to make respectful images of all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Or, alternatively, to build temples, light lamps, make offerings to the entire monastic community, and so on. Say this 3 times in front of him. Say it 3 times in front of the patient. For those who truly have faith, at this moment, they might be willing to offer all these things. Actually, this is very important. When we die, it's the same for ourselves. This is what is stated in the precepts. Before you pass away, when you feel your condition has become quite serious, you should deal with the things you are most attached to and offer them to the monastic community. If the descendants want to do good for the deceased, as I mentioned that day, it's best to take the things he was most attached to and valuable possessions and offer them all to the monastic community, make Buddha statues, stupas, and butter lamps, as well as make offerings to the monastery. This is very important. Moreover, you must make sure that person is aware of it himself. Before he passes away, say loudly, "I am offering your car, your house, your such and such items, your phone, your bank cards, and all of your other personal belongings. I am taking each of these possessions to make offerings to the monastic community." Maybe this person really has faith, so it might really truly be possible. If he has faith, some might say, "It's fine, I might not die." Many people, when they're dying, still have that kind of hope, the strong desire to keep living themselves. They don't want others to handle their affairs. It's fine. I'll still be alive. It won't happen. Actually, if this person has faith, it's quite good to let him participate himself. He should make offerings himself while he's still alive, out of his own joy. Maybe he'll actually recover. If he does recover, then he can simply buy things again in the future. Who knows if he'll have money at that time? If, let's say, his consciousness has already scattered and his vital breath has ceased, even after 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, even up to 7 days or more if needed, you should still recite scriptures aloud for him with great devotion. Maybe just now his internal breath stopped. From that moment on, keep loudly declaring things to him without stopping in his ear at any time. Recite the Ksitigarbha Sutra aloud. In this way, after a person passes away, even the karmic offenses from previous lives, no matter how grave, even the 5 heinous crimes, can all be purified, and ultimately this can lead to the attainment of liberation. Moreover, no matter where he is reborn after his death occurs, he will be able to know the karma of his previous life with perfect clarity, possessing the knowledge of past lives. This is also very important to understand well. Not to mention, if a good man or good woman, if they themselves earlier, it was about letting others handle the patient's wealth in this way. All the more so if there are good men and good women who personally copy this sutra, or teach others to copy this sutra, or personally sculpt an image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, or even teach others to paint an image of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, then the merit and reward they receive is truly inconceivable. Therefore, they will have no fear at all and will surely gain great, enduring, and lasting benefit. As stated in the Ksitigarbha 10-Wheel Sutra, those who take refuge in and pay respect to Ksitigarbha will all abide in fearlessness. If one truly takes refuge in Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, that person will attain genuine happiness in all things throughout their entire life and will have no fear or anxiety. If you do these things personally, it goes without saying. Therefore, Universal Vast, if you see someone reciting this sutra, or even praising this sutra for just a single instant, or showing respect to this sutra for even a single instant, what must you do? As people from the Northeast often say, you must make it as convenient as possible for them. You should always provide all kinds of support and convenience whenever needed, and encourage these people to diligently persevere and not retreat. This is very important. When we see others rejoicing and reciting sutras, at such times we should try every possible way to see what kind of support or convenience this person needs, and then make sure they don't lose heart. In fact, not losing heart is especially important. I'm not even afraid at all if someone doesn't start learning at first, but as they continue learning later on, some people lose their energy and can't keep going. And in the end, they don't seem as enthusiastic as before. At the very beginning, I don't really like it when people are overly enthusiastic. When they see something on the road, ground, and with a slap, they perform full body prostrations on the ground. Then they offer all their beautiful agate and coral jewelry as very precious offerings, taking everything away to make all offerings. But after a few years that pass by, they become indifferent and apathetic in their practice. Gradually, some people even start to slander the Dharma. Such people are truly frightening. As Buddhists at the very beginning, don't use up all your energy at once. You should carefully set aside some for yourself. After all, your own mind is not to be trusted. So my own heart, my own mind is not reliable. I don't necessarily have to go all in. Take it slowly, step by step. If you keep expending all your energy continuously, don't release it all at once. Do it slowly and carefully. That way things will be a bit better. In the end, it's best to consistently maintain your diligence and prevent it from fading. Everyone should remember this. Our diligent heart, whether it's the heart that praises Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva or not, whether it's the aspiration for bodhicitta, the intention to benefit all beings, or the mind to study Buddhism, any such diligent mind, it's best not to let it fade. Keep your diligence steady. If we can't remember many words, then during our study of the scriptures we should pick out a few important words to encourage and motivate ourselves in our daily lives. This is also extremely important to keep in mind. In this way, both now and in the future, we can attain countless inconceivable merits. There are inconceivable merits. If we described all, even Buddhas would struggle to explain, let alone us. Especially later in the section, The Benefits of Seeing and Hearing, the merits are described in more detail. There are so many. So I think that after finishing this teaching on the Ksitigarbha Sutra, I am confident that my words really have some power to inspire, and that many people will pay even more attention to this Dharma practice. I also hope that after teaching a Dharma text, everyone will be able to dispel some doubts and give rise to true faith. This is very important. Next, it says, what does it talk about? Universal vast, if perhaps in the future, in this world possibly, there are people who, in their dreams or while sleeping, see some ghosts or spirits or perhaps other, especially frightening forms, like those without heads and all sorts of different kinds of things, just like what you see in horror movies, or whose appearances are especially sorrowful and filled with deep sadness. Some are crying, some are looking worried, some are sighing, and some are extremely, extremely terrifying and frightening. In fact, when we see especially frightening scenes in our dreams, what exactly are they? Actually, they are from your current life, or from 10 lives ago, or from 100 lives ago, or within 1,000 lives. Your past parents, men and women, brothers, sisters, spouses, and relatives, and loved ones, these beings are now in the lower realms. So when we have nightmares every night and see some especially terrifying phenomena, it's actually not necessarily that a real ghost has come. It could be your parents from a previous life, or parents, siblings, or spouses from even earlier lives, as well as those karmically connected to you, who are now in the lower realms, in hell, as hungry ghosts or as animals. They have not attained liberation, so they have no hope of escape, merit, or power. They try to contact their relatives in this life. So when you have a nightmare, it could actually perhaps be your blood relatives from past lives who have come to seek you out. But when they come to you, it's not to harm you. So generally when we have nightmares, there's no need to be afraid. These evil spirits are truly at a dead end themselves, and they seek us out to do some good deeds for them. So if I had a nightmare last night, what should I do the next day? Doing good deeds, that's truly the best and most effective approach. I clearly remember on January 6th, I mentioned this part, saying that if you have a nightmare, you should earnestly practice accordingly in all situations. Here it says to inform your own relatives who are dear to you and let them use skillful means to help leave the evil paths as soon as possible. So you should use your spiritual power to send your family members before the holy images of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and sincerely recite this sutra, a sincere heart. This is very important. Or you can request someone else to recite it for you, either 3 times or 7 times. In this way, the family members you see in your dreams, because you have finished reciting the sutra, they will all attain liberation. From that moment on, you will never see them again in nightmares. They won't appear anymore. Now, some people online say, I recited it once, I recited it 7 times, but I still have nightmares. What should I do? I think maybe what it means here by sincerely is about the requirements for recitation. You should have a sincere heart. We often say, if your heart is sincere, it will be effective. If your heart isn't sincere and you're just doing it to cure an illness, and you don't recite it with real seriousness, then it might not work. So when we recite mantras, they definitely have an effect.
Reciting sutras has an effect, but it's not guaranteed to be 100%. Nothing in this world can be 100% effective. It's very difficult. No matter what medicine we take, if someone asks you, should we take this medicine? We should take it. Does medicine work? Yes, it works. But as long as it's medicine, is it guaranteed to be 100% effective? Not necessarily. It's the same with reciting mantras. If it doesn't work the first or second time, does that mean you shouldn't recite anymore? Not necessarily. If one medicine doesn't work for you, does that mean you'll never take medicine again? That's not the case either. So in this regard, we should have a well-defined and thoughtful approach. Sometimes these things happen to us as well in our daily lives unexpectedly. That day, just as I was translating this part of the text, I had a nightmare at night, like sleep paralysis by a ghost pressing down hard. There was a ghost with a rather large body pressing down on my lower body, on my legs. There was a child. It felt just like a child from what I could sense, gently pressing down on my upper body. The pressure was very intense. When the pressure got really strong, I became very scared. At first, I visualized a wrathful deity. At that moment, I was reciting Guru Rinpoche's wrathful mantra, keeping that visualization. My visualization was going well, but the pressure kept getting stronger and it stopped working. Then I visualized emptiness, thinking even demons are empty. But at that moment, the child on top pressed down even harder. It was unbearable. Then I shouted out loudly, "Wah!" Just like that, and woke up. When I woke up, everything was gone. So sometimes, even in dreams, visualizing the wrathful Vajra or emptiness doesn't work. But a loud shout does the trick. I actually thought about it because that day earlier, I had posted something on Weibo. Maybe it was because some spirits or deities were unhappy about it, or maybe it was some friends or relatives from a past life coming to remind me to do good deeds again. So later I donated some money, and I also had the monks at Laronga recite scriptures for me. That's all for today, all right?
Ksitigarbha Sutra